All right, look at that. Okay, I can see each other and everybody. We are. That was a blooper, wasn't it?
Oh.
And we're live. I mean, not really live, but we're taping.
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Woof.
so woof woof. So I'm Danny Nagy, and this is Caffeinated Creatives, and today's guest is the one and only Mandy Moon, or Mindy. I always call you whatever I feel like at the moment.
I call you Dan, like
Dan,
noodles.
You're the only person that can call me that.
I know.
And
I know.
I could maybe call you Mindy.
For sure, like a cartoon.
Oh, yes. Oh, I was just reminiscing how we met. We met through Soul Vibes, right?
Uh-huh.
Soul Vibes, we played, and I remember sitting in the back at the rehearsal space in South Nashville. You had specific notes, which I'm like, all right, yes, ma'am, the captain. And I'm like, let's do it. And then we had a killer show, and then we connected. We nearly worked on a song, but Dan, my production company, wasn't a good fit, in my opinion. And
it happens.
And then it happens. That's what it is. You know, you connect, you see if something works, but then I kept bugging you with shit. And then you needed a guitar player. And
it goes both ways.
And a little bit later, we started playing together. We played pretty frequently.
Every month.
In the past, every month, yeah, sometimes 2 gigs, you know. So we connected very much. We play a lot of songs, and we're kind of sticking together like a sore thumb, hopefully. I don't even know if that's a saying. My thumb is sore.
Honestly, for sure. And also, like, I don't remember sounding like a sergeant, but I guess, like, when you're a singer and you go into a room with people that have no idea what to expect,
Yeah.
I always like to give a disclaimer of what I would like and how it could help, you know, the room create better. And that's always been kind of, I think it just comes from naturally band leading and just, like, answering those questions before they're asked.
Yeah,
so we don't have to talk about it and waste time. And I think that's just the habit of what Nashville kind of forces you to get used to. Of like, okay, let's do this. Questions? Okay, cool, let's go.
No, I like that. I like that because you knew what you wanted and you were communicating it, you know, directly. You're a direct person, which I think is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
You know.
And for your wonderful listeners, the Soul Vibe show was a Hall & Oates tribute show for all their records. And that was a pretty wild show. So many backup singers, so many moving parts, so many musicians. I call Soul Vibes the musical chairs of soul music. You know, I think it's important to play with as many people as possible. But I think the struggle with that, like we just talked about, is staying organized.
Yeah, I remember that show. That's crazy. It was at that venue. What's the name of that hotel?
It was at the Hutton Hotel. And the venue was Analog.
Analog, yeah. I love that. That place looks so retro to me.
Yeah, that chandelier is massive. Like, I feel like if that fell on me, I would probably get killed. Like, that thing is just gargantuan. Like,
you start singing Chandelier song.
Yeah,
by
don't be there.
Rihanna.
Don't be there when an earthquake hits. Get on out of there.
Yeah, that gang is always cool to play there. Just a lot of musicians, a lot of cool folks gathering, and maybe rehearsal, no rehearsal, and they end up sounding pretty cool, you know?
Exactly.
I love that, you know, like you connect with people and you play with people, and you just go in, hey, my name is this, and I guess we're gonna play. You
right.
know?
And I think what makes it really fun is, like, you deal with so many different personalities. You deal with so many people with many backgrounds. Not everybody is a session player. Some people just really love soul music, and they love the artist, you know, night that they're playing. And it allows, like, the opportunity to really sing and perform different things. Maybe you don't perform all the time. I do enjoy that. So always love the ability to, like, connect at any type of networking event. That's just one of the very few.
Yeah.
But that's my personal favorite. So
one of the cool things that I've experienced is over the past year and a half that we've known each other. I feel like because of the time that we span, we've grown to each other to such a degree where we shared some deep thoughts with each other, kind of like a therapy sesh. Either I call you or you call me.
That's what friends do, though.
What's up, bud?
But is it weird though? Like that's what friends do, and like I think
That's what real friends do.
That's right.
They check in, they ask, and they tell you the hard stuff that then you have to take it and marinate it and think about it.
I mean, there have been times where we've had like I would say more like kind debates over how we want to play a song. I don't think we've actually like had fist fights or thrown paper plates around.
No. I don't think so. I think we always had very thoughtful conversations. But what I was going at is, sometimes growing a relationship takes a long time, but sometimes a small amount of time. But really, genuine conversations, sharing and being intimate in an intellectual way can bring people closer. And what I was gonna say is that I feel like I've known you for longer. Sorry, my words are correct. And longer than a year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah. What have we done?
Crazy.
What have I done? I agree. I totally agree. And the reason why I bring up the conflict aspect is like, I feel and do believe like when the best way to learn about somebody is how somebody navigates through conflict and something they don't agree with. Because like I thrive on working with people that you've heard me say this with like clients and people we worked with. Not every idea I have is a great idea, and I always love being convinced that there's a better way. So for me, like that's how I devote my brain to creativity, whether it's songwriting, whether it's a set list that we work on together. Like I'm always like looking to optimize the entire experience. Like I don't think my idea is a great idea. I come in with hoping that it works out, but most of the time I really don't know if that's the right thing.
One thing out of many the things that you do that I admire, that I really was like, I want to be more like Mindy in that sense, is that you're such a business person when it comes to playing music, organizing, you know your worth, you communicate your needs, you try not to you don't want people to take advantage of you. Somebody seems like they want more than the agreement, you're gonna go after it. That I was like, when I was experiencing these, I'm like, damn, these are things I want to be better at. And I think because of that, I kind of sponge these personality traits or these traits of yours, because especially when I got when I'm going to my rebrand now, I'm trying to be more assertive, know more of my prices, put boundaries professionally, and I think that a lot of it has to do because of our friendship, and how did you? What was that? What's your story? How did you get to that place? What were these experiences that led you to become the person that you are today?
So many experiences.
I know that was a very deep thought.
No, it's a super... I had to put my coffee cup down. I was like, I gotta hear this question. I gotta put it down. My heart rate is going up. I'm excited. I love sharing.
Were you always like that, or you had to go through some self-learned lessons that led you, okay, I gotta do this way?
100%. I definitely had to go through a lot of really shitty times. We can curse on this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, some people, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not a Good Morning America type of gal. Like I'm, you get what you get. That has not changed. I think I've encountered a lot of lessons learned with just working with people who think are a right fit. Or just for the right time. And I call those people constituents. Sometimes we go through a journey or a project together, whether it's band or this one thing, and then it ends. And there's really no tie-in, there's no relationship. And it's something that, I think my radar just wasn't as good a couple years ago as it is now. Like I have an idea of who feeds me, like, and fills me with knowledge and creativity and inspiration versus other people who just want to take advantage. And I'm not even talking about from a monetary sense either. I'm talking about somebody who just wants information from you, that wants like your time but isn't very clear. But for me, I've learned that it falls upon yourself on what that is defined. And it's not necessarily like a type A or like a type B personality. It's just you have to decide what's worth it and what's not. And when it comes to music and people, like in projects and bands, I have dealt with a lot of changes. And one of the largest changes that impacted my journey was having to end my my project before I moved to Nashville. Ended just because everybody was older. One of my musician friends wanted to settle down. The other one was moving back to Columbia, and the other one just wanted to pursue composition. And it was just like, I think everyone just kind of knew this is as far as it can go. And I had this realization, like, if I want to grow, I'm going to have to do it alone. So I went from relying on these people to elevate my growth to realizing I needed to do it myself. That was step one. Like, having that realization that, second coming of, okay, I'm going to have to do this on my own for a while. And I took that time to move to Nashville in 2016. And building a band in Nashville is pretty hard. But what I've learned over the years is that, like, the right people are here, and it comes with time, and you're going to have to go through a lot of people, because it's not just the talent that's important, it's the gelling, it's the respect, it's loyalty. And unfortunately, there's a lot of musicians here that lack loyalty and really just are gunning for the next gig, which is fair, is fine. But when it comes from an artist perspective like me, who also can do session work and who also is multifaceted, I think there has to be some form of like loyalty and like communication in order to foster like a deeper relationship. Because I've learned, like, I wasn't always like this. I used to really struggle playing with new people. Actually was really like afraid to speak up on stage, and like didn't know how to like stop a band. Like, new people, like, you go up, it's like going up to a jam and like declaring yourself the lead singer. Like, I never really believed, like, you go up on a jam and you've never seen these people in your life, and then you come from a background of playing with the same people for 5-6 years. It's like so different. It's weird. And it's something that I had to like break through. It took like probably a good 2 to 3 years to be like, okay, this is how it's going to be. This is what the music industry looks like for me. And like, I'm probably not going to find that same type of bond, because those bonds that I had were from years and years and years of playing. And that takes time. So I think there was like a part of me being super impatient on that growth and that time. So we talk about a year and a half, but like, that's like, I don't know, LA time, that's like 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, knowing each other and developing that working relationship as well. So I've had to go through a lot of failures. I've had to deal with people moving on, not really believing in my project, my music. And one of them literally basically told me, well, since you're not playing in front of thousands of people, don't really want to be in this project. I'm not seeing a runway for you. Oh yeah, I've had some really awful things said to my face. Won't quote who. And I've also had people like drop out last minute before a show. And I've had to navigate through those experiences. And, one of the things that I've started being more accountable when it comes to time is, if someone's not going to be in my band full time, then we live on agreements, not verbal agreements, but written agreements, because it's what people need to understand about agreements, and also from an artist perspective, because I think artists are afraid to do that sometimes. And for me, the agreement allows you to know what to expect from me. and what I expect from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that also applies to private gigs you and I have done.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I don't know, just lineups, whatever. Like, if payment's involved, if load-in's involved, other aspects of the show. It's been really helpful to outline that for people, and it avoids that conflict. And I don't know why it took me so long to realize that that's what was missing, but it's really, like, lowered the stress of wondering if these people are going to show up to play my gig. And also, like, I can basically, like, protect myself, because as, like, an independent artist, a lot of this is money that's saved, I've earned from playing, from working. And it would not be fair if, you know, a musician that I hire or I collaborate with for a show, or a couple shows, quite frankly, pulls out. And there's no accountability. So for me, learning accountability for myself was number one. Number two, teaching accountability to people around me was most important. And that, to me, fostered the best relationships I've ever had in music. And also, like, if people have a problem with that, then I know that I can't rely on them. So there's very few people that you can count on their word, you know, or text message. And yeah, it happens. You know, sometimes we don't have the time to develop an agreement. Sometimes it's like kind of like a rollover. It's like singular, like rollover minutes. Like, okay, let me work on this 2 days from now. But like, it's just something that I realized I needed to tighten up. And also when we deal with clients, like whether video, music, whatever, having like a nice, strong agreement so they know what to expect versus just hoping for the best. Because I don't live... You know my favorite line, I don't live in a space of assumption. If I'm not sure, I ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people respect you more when you go into stuff like that. So either way, I think that's like really the only way I've learned, just like failing over and over and over, dealing with loss financially because of other people being assholes.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest lesson, the best lesson is learning it by yourself, or you're learning or going through yourself. But I was always told, learn from other people's mistakes. But sometimes it's not the strongest way to learn. And you get the experiences and you learn, it really gets through your skull if you go through all of these yourself. And I get what you mean about doing everything yourself. I was just like that before I went into a 3-way partnership, which had its own flaws.
Of course.
But I was always, before that, and I am now that same thing. I'm always the same person, but it always comes down to, you know, what are you willing to give away, or what's the word for that? Compromises? And I think exactly. I made a lot of compromises that went against what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it is, I needed to be more honest with myself, and this is what I want, this is what I need. Does this meet my needs and my wants? Both mentally, physically, emotionally, financially? If it doesn't, make the right choice and not do this because you just want to help people. Because you got to first help yourself, put yourself in a better position, because until you're not in a better position, you can't help others.
It's so hard.
It is.
It's so hard. Compromise, the C word.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Not that C word. Compromise is an exhausting word, and I felt like I spent being compromising and selfless for years. But when I was doing it with my old band back home, like, I knew what to expect. There was a really strong bond. But when you're dealing with new people in your space and people that are still figuring out if it's a right fit for them, whether it's monetarily, whether it's something they want to do, there has to be some form of, like, accountability on their end, too. It shouldn't fall on just me. Like, and that's just what I think. I come from an artist perspective, you know, and I think in Nashville there's an artist versus session player mentality.
Yeah.
And I really truly wanted to break that. I wanted to, like, prove, I think, overall that it's not that way, but it is. It's instilled in the culture here. It's a unique industry because we are a songwriting town. So like songwriters are always looking for players to play, but we also are becoming kind of this like new LA where we have all these different genres and all these different things that are like fostered here. So for me, it's like I think Nashville's changing slowly, and I think there's more opportunity aside from just songwriting. I think there's the ability to grow in many different ways in music. Because I mean, even when I moved here, I started off as an Americana artist.
Interesting.
That's what I was doing.
I did not know that.
That's what I was doing, and I didn't know. I didn't come to Nashville and go, I'm gonna do Americana. No, I was already doing Americana, like soul type of stuff, like, and yeah, I crowdfunded my album.
Yes, I remember.
And like, you know, it felt pretty good. But it was just like, I realized like I don't really want to do that. I wanted to do a different genre. It just felt like, you know, we're constantly changing, we're constantly moving our creative ideas, and like, yeah, I could easily fall into the mold of, yeah, I should probably do country because everyone's doing country.
But that's the thing. Then you do what everybody else is doing.
Right.
And I think it's important. What's the how do I say? Have you heard of this thing called the blue ocean theory?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like a blue ocean theory, you know, like what is it that I can do, or how can I do it that puts it outside of what everybody else is doing?
Yeah.
But I wanted to comment on some of the other things that you mentioned. You mentioned a lot of really interesting stuff, and I think, for instance, the loyalty and these qualities of a musician are almost more important than how much chops people have and things like that, because it's how people conduct business, how they carry themselves, how teachable they are, how eager they are to do things, and a lot of it also comes from their teachers and their community and how they saw things were taken care of. When I used to have a big band, that was a ginormous amount of work to keep 24 people, rehearsals, you know, a lot of systems. And one of my teachers told me, always have at least 3 people that can replace anybody in the band.
It's true.
But I have to say that my core part of the band were always the same.
Yeah.
Like, people who loved it, genuinely wanted to do it, they were very good. And professional people, even if they couldn't come to a gig rehearsal, they sent somebody to cover them with the music. And I always like, that is very professional. Like, if you can't make something, don't just leave me hanging.
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
You should find somebody. It's not my problem. Don't put that on me to now worry about something else.
And guess what? That's in my contract now.
And I think these are also like kind of not human, but professionalism has these, like, you should do this if this comes up, you know, kind of like a way to conduct things, you know. And I learned that if I am working with 24 people, that I myself have to make sure that I can do every single part and can't rely on anybody unless I really have people that really also care and nearly as much as I do, you know, like the core band, drummer, bassist, keyboard player, they're always very loyal. I can always rely on them. They knew the music, had everything. So I looked up to those people. For me, there's no better way to gain my, props is that you see them being professional, prepared, respectful, trustworthy. You know, if I don't see it in people, it's just hard for me to respect them. I don't want to sound weird, but you have to have these high standards, and I'm saying that I have these high standards on myself too. And sometimes I put myself like, oh, why did I have to do it? But that's where you have to give yourself also a little grace. But I do understand all the things you're talking about. I had some horn players in my band who got presidential scholarship and things like that. They didn't have to work. I don't want to say didn't have to, but I worked my ass off to get more and more scholarships and to be everywhere. But I've experienced a lot of those folks didn't do as much as what other people had to do, and they were late, flaky, they were disrespectful, and it's like that is meaningless to me then. And and somebody who maybe isn't that choppy, but is a very good person, practices, shows up, ready to play always. These are way more valuable than sometimes.
I'll remember that more. I mean, I'll remember that person more over somebody who's just straight up noodling over my music and arriving late and like whatever. And I think a lot of people that come to this town, they come guns hot, like super flex, and then after a few months in, they realize like nobody cares. And I think it's devastating. They think it's so devastating to their ego when they realize there's people that have the same, like, one of my favorite musicians now, Rachel Rodriguez, we talked about ageism.
Oh.
A really strong concept about how, like, you know, Nashville is very loyal to their artists and people they go on tour runs with and whatever, and you see musicians of all ages. And I'll be honest, like, back home, I mean, I saw, like, obviously older people playing music, but it wasn't, like, at that high industry level that I see here. Like, it's, like, artists are very loyal to the musicians that they call. And I have the same mindset as well. Like, I'm going to call people that I'm more comfortable with, I have more fun with, versus somebody else. You know, obviously, if I'm, like, in the studio and I have, like, a specific thing I really want, like, if I want a triangle, if I want a professional whistler, obviously, I'm probably going to find somebody for that. I found out somebody does that. It's pretty wild. But, like, when it comes to creativity and building a set together and putting on a great show, a couple shows, who knows, like, I'm going to call the same people for as long as they're alive, I hope, and available. But things change. You know, people get sick. Like you mentioned, people getting sick and feeling unwell. Yeah, definitely. We're still, like, presently dealing with flu, COVID, all the things, and that does happen. You know, as somebody who's been a band leader and also myself, like, we just have to figure out who's on that list, who's the next in line, and we just keep going. Now, unless, like, there's more than, like, one person that's, like, calling out, then yeah, we might have to reschedule. And to be honest, out of all the years I've done music, I've only done that once. For me. Like, gotten sick and needed to reschedule a show. And I remember I did it, like, crying and clamoring to the booking agent. I remember calling and saying, I am so sorry. It was, like, for this winery in town, a 2.5-hour set.
Ooh.
With breaks, of course. You know, I love breaks. And and I was like, I am so sorry. I have the flu. I don't have a voice right now. Not really sure what's going on. I've been trying to feel better for, like, 4 days. And they just were like, hey, it's cool. Let's reschedule a month from now. And I realized, okay, like, I'm not going to lose the gig. I'm not going to lose it. It's going to be okay. And, like, there's a part of me, like, there's, like, a part of me that feels like I have to, like, overperform all the time because it's so competitive. Like, residencies and positions in town are, like, very competitive. So, like, the moment you're not on top of your shit, that's the opportunity for someone else to take your spot. And don't even, like, get me started on, like, pay. And
oh, man.
That might have to be part 2.
I was just thinking about it. I was just going to ask him, what do you think about this tipping culture playing for free? But that would be a long can of worms.
It comes up, that conversation comes up with, like, almost everybody that's played downtown in the past before. You know, I think that if it works for you, cool, but it doesn't have to work for me. And that's the response I have. And musicians don't realize that you don't have to do that. I mean, I think it's an opportunity to network, and the people that play those shows, the ones that are actually really good, that have, like, a strong base, like pay base with tips, like, those dudes have been doing that same slot for probably 15, 20 years.
Wow.
So I just want to let all your listeners know, a lot of these people are established. So back to this, like, weird space of, like, ageism and whatever, like, nobody cares how old you are in Nashville as long as you deliver and you do it. I personally don't care how old somebody is. I mean, one of my favorite drummers back then, when I was playing in Florida, Tony, he was, like, in his 50s. And, dude, he was, like, older than all of us. And Tony had the spirit of, like, a 20-year-old. Like, he was just so much fun. You know, we'd have, like, beers after rehearsal gigs. Like, he was just so cool, smoking weed. Like, and he was such an amazing musician. Like, he did tribute shows, too. Like, he loved that shit. So, I mean, for me, like, age is just a number. You know, maybe take care of yourself. Maybe do your hair. Maybe, like, put on some nice clothes. Maybe try. Like I tell you all the time, just try. You You don't have to like do too much. Just try a little bit, and it goes a long way. Presentation matters.
Oh yeah.
So,
People buy with their eyes. How does X make you feel? How and people do judge, and
yeah.
so and it is what it is.
Yeah, image is like
yeah.
image is such like a frustrating thing even for me, because like I've been doing music for so long, and the way I used to look and the way I look now is very different, and I'm realizing that as I am like turning 35 this year. Like, the way that I dress, the way that I perform has changed a lot in a good way. And it's just like, where do I belong? Where does my artistic abilities lie? What does that look like moving forward? How do I want to do this forever? What industry or where do I belong? And I think that's just like the lifelong question, like, where do I fit in? How can I sustain, right? Sustainability. Like I'm recycling or some shit. It's good coffee.
Oh, thank you. I found it stashed away somewhere. It was still my batch. My batch.
Tell me more about this coffee, because I feel like I'm on this caffeinated show, and
oh yeah.
And I don't know anything about your coffee.
So there's this place called Sweet Maria's.
Plug.
They get their beans from farmers all around the world, and they have this really cool 8-pound package where each pound or each bag is from a different region, and you don't know what comes until you order it, and then if you got a pretty decent or some kind of a beginner roaster.
Yeah.
I got one for my birthday last year.
Num num num.
From my future brother-in-law. Thank you. I cried, literally. I cried when I opened it.
I would too.
I wanted one so much, and he was like, I'm like, whoa.
It's like Christmas.
Anyway, so
it's crying right now.
Because I love it. but I ordered this 8-pound package.
Yeah.
And I had to go to my dad because I had to upload a bunch of footage for a wedding. And the other thing I was doing is I was roasting and uploading. So in like 2 days I roasted 7 pounds. And then they have to, as I told you, they have to like sit for like 2 weeks so that the espresso degasses and things like that. But one time the freaking machine nearly got caught on fire because the bean popped into the place that holds the shaft or whatever it's called.
Shaft?
The shaft or the little shell of
shaft.
the coffee. Sure. And then all this next thing I see is the thing is on fire. I'm like, oh shit, unplug the water on it. And I waited like an hour to do another batch, but roasting is so interesting. There are multiple ways the bean can be harvested, and it looks like a cherry. I don't know if you've seen like a coffee bean. It looks basically like a tart cherry.
Yeah.
And then depending on how that what is it called? The bean is harvested or taken out of it. Like there's the dry method, wet haul, whatever. Like they can even put it out right after they harvested it, and then that the cherry part will look kind of like a raisin, and then they take that off, and I'm still a baby roaster, and when I say baby roaster, I'm not roasting babies. I'm roasting. I'm young at roasting. But
he's a youngin.
I'm a youngling.
Yeah. So what coffee bean did I drink today?
I think what you had was a dry one, and there are 4 stages also when you roast.
Yes.
It's green when you put it in. There's a yellowing. There's a caramelization or something.
Nom.
Oh my! If I get it right, if I get it wrong, put it in the comment, okay? Don't hurt me. Don't hurt my feelings. There's like the first crack, which lasts for like a minute 30. And you have to time all this stuff because otherwise you don't know how to recreate it. Or with other types of beans that have like some chunks on it, that are more like when they left that outer part dry on it, whatever. So I'm checking all these segments and learn which one gives the best kind of for this kind, and after that there's a cooling phase.
Yeah.
There's also like a second crack, which usually gives like a very dark roast, and you know that I do it for espresso, and when you say espresso roast, they usually refer to dark roast because there is no such a thing as like an espresso roast. It's just it's known that a darker roast is easier to pull.
Yes.
Because pulling espresso is another art, you know. And I pulled now probably a 2,000 plus espressos.
Wow. Yeah.
I know. And it is another science. So like making that is one science, and then making the espresso is another science, because there's so many ratios, there's so many things that goes into it. I can really talk your head off of it. But that what I made you first, I poured the coffee onto the froth milk. It's kind of like a European thing. They pull on it, and what I used the coconut sugar just a little bit and froth the milk with that coconut sugar in it because I wanted that sweetness. And then I poured the coffee on it, and that was pretty much in short.
Hey, listen, it was really good, and I think my experience from coffee stems from being a barista and being your stereotypical musician working in coffee shops. I've tasted so much coffee since I've been on Earth, and I'm super blessed, to be honest. I've had Colombian, I've had Costa Rican, I've had blonde, I've had this, I've had that, and like one of my favorites, like I do love a good old-fashioned latte with a little bit of froth milk on top, but I recently have started turning into Americanos. Americanos with like hot milk, just like right on top, like just a little bit of milk. And I know like the trending thing now is like cold foam. I'm still not used to that.
I know how to do that.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
So I feel like my horizons have expanded. I feel like when I go overseas, when I go to Thailand, where I'm from, they have a serious problem with Americanos. Like Americanos all day, every day.
Really?
Yeah, Americanos, cappuccinos, and if it's yeah.
You know what's the history of Americano?
Tell me.
When the soldiers in America were in World War One or World War Two, I don't remember which one. They were
I lose
Europe,
track. So many.
in Europe, and the espresso was too strong for them, so they added the water in it to kind of water it down. That's espresso.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, that's the story. That's it.
For sure. Yeah, and like
Well, we can look at it. I have literature here.
Oh, wow.
I have 2 books.
Wow.
based on it.
Listen, I don't know what it is with overseas folks, but like they really love their Americanos and cappuccinos, and like, and if it wasn't that, it was iced coffee with so much sugar, like it would give me like sugar retention, like I would just get diabetes. So I had to tell them like, my wine, like not sweet, please, and they would just look at me and go, but why? It's bitter. Like they'll say it's bitter. Why you want it like that? I was like, yes, no sugar, please. So like my palate has changed a lot over the years. I used to love sweet iced coffee. Now I just actually like coffee the way it is. Yeah, I don't see a life where I don't drink this natural drug. Woof.
I'm gonna have to zoom into that. You look like one of the. I don't see myself drinking.
I'm gonna pretend I'm drinking because I've already drank it.
I don't see myself not drinking coffee. That is too funny.
Yeah, I think I don't think my tongue could fit in this bowl. But
well, there's this thing called cupping. So when you roast and you make coffee, cupping, when you're doing espresso, every 10 seconds of it pouring, you put another cup.
Yeah. And
you work with ratios. So there's this thing called dialing in. And what that means is that you're aiming for a recipe of a ratio. So like what I'm trying to aim for, since I use a three shot espresso, so I use 22 grams in and I want 44 grams out. And what that means is the beans are 22 grams and the brewed coffee will be 44 grams. And that needs to be between 23 to 32 seconds. And that's what I'm aiming for.
That's it.
If it's faster, then it means that the grind size needs to be finer. If it's very slow, then it needs to be the grind needs to be coarser.
What's your favorite part of the entire process?
Ooh, man, that is a hard question. There's some. Ooh.
I know this is your show, but I felt the need to ask.
I honestly love making coffee so much. I love all of the processes. Smelling it, the whole auditory process.
Do you like smelling
Yes.
it and like the selection process?
Yes.
That's at least my favorite part.
yes.
When I walk into wherever and you just like the aromas are just in your face when you can actually like smell each individual type.
Yeah.
That's another job in itself. It's like
It is. When you were talking about the flavor profile, like a little acidic and things like that, there's like a flavor index or something that when you taste it, you can like give these scales or type it in. That's a whole other thing. Like I know a lot about coffee, but to other people, I'm still baby. Like James Hoffman is like the scientist of coffee. I don't want this to go out and consider myself a pro, but I try to know as much as I can, or at least know what I don't know. But with the copying, what I was going to say, that when you roast it, usually roasters try their beans on different methods.
Yeah.
It's called copying, and they have like taste it, and depending on how many days or weeks there was between roast date and when they're roasting it, you have really makes a big difference. Like I know I gave you beans and they were like 2-3 days after roasting, and I tried it every single day, and every single day there was a big difference.
Yeah, I think my partner Joey is a coffee addict as well, and he was just like, the second batch he gave me was stronger. It's almost there. He's like, it's not quite where it needs to live, but it's almost there. So I think it's almost like that, like how wine sits over time.
Yes.
So I think like I'm willing to suffer for my my natural drug to wait longer. Like I will wait a month if you want me to. I don't care.
But what I've learned, it's still better than the store bought.
100%.
And the thing is, what's funny is a lot of people go on drinking these store bought coffees. They don't know what it's like to actually drink something that is well made. It's
with
like
love.
How do I put it well? If you go to a Burger King every day and then one day you eat like a filet mignon, like the best burger, you're like, wow. You're like, wow. That's fucking funny.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to spend so much money on coffee. I remember first time or second time I did my taxes, I spent $800 to $1,000 on coffee.
Wow.
What the fuck? Going to meetings, you're like, buy coffee.
The largest bag of coffee I've ever bought, it was a 10-pound bag.
Nice.
And I had a vacuum storage thing,
Nice.
and I treat coffee like my wheat. I store it in very vacuum safe jars. Keep it in the cabinet, out of light.
Keep on talking.
Yeah. No, it's like you got to take care of it. You got to nurture it, take care of it. If you leave it open with the bag open, you're just making it stale. You just don't do it. And a lot of these larger chain coffee places, I feel like, have gotten super lazy and not trying to plug schmarbucks, but that was one of my first coffee experiences. Working in college, finishing up my music degree, and when Schmerfer was a neighborhood coffee shop, they really did start off as a neighborhood style store model, and I learned so much about different world coffees and stuff like that, and it was just an incredible introduction, right? On how temperature and preparation really affect each flavor. And then over the years it got more mainstream, and it wasn't as exciting for me anymore. It just became kind of they weren't really innovating, they weren't really caring about the process as much. And then when I moved over, left and got to more of an organic, vegan coffee shop. I got to explore like fair traded beans and like shipped, like really curated, like from green beans and roasted, and like it really expanded. So like I've had my coffee journey is just as expensive as my music journey. It grew as my music journey grew. Like coffee is basically what keeps, I think, most of us creatives going. So I think this is like a really smart idea, and I almost want another cup. So
yeah, I can make you one with a different preparation process.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
That's why I thought, you know what inspired this? And it's funny because I tell this to everybody on the show. Hot Ones meets coffee.
Yeah.
Or Hot Ones and comedians with cars or in cars getting coffee meets this.
For sure. My gut would be on fire if I ate wings and coffee.
Here's some hot wings with some coffee.
With hot coffee.
I'm like, oh, I need wet wipes. I know
wet wipes, a whole roll of toilet paper, a pair of pants.
And a hose. Hose that sucker!
Honestly though, yeah, I definitely was curating what I ate this morning, so it wouldn't be too intense.
That's
BTS. Funny. No, but seriously,
Yeah.
what you eat before you consume lots of coffee. Like,
oh, yeah.
And also, I was like, I can't have an empty stomach. I was like, I need scrambled eggs. I need like a little bit of toast, and I'm good. Like, I'll be fine.
Yeah. So that's kind of what inspired it. And I had the idea last year, mid-2023. And I always like connecting with people, but more so in an intimate setting.
Yeah.
Because when you go to a bar, coffee shop, there's a lot of noise and things like that, or these like mixers where you go from one person, you're like, okay, I'm going to talk to another person now. Bye.
I've never done that. I've never done that. That's
okay.
fucking weird. That's so weird to me. Like, I don't operate in a social environment like that. Like, I just work well with just, like, hanging out, going up to people, and, like, you know, having almost, like, a living room style where we can just kind of just mingle naturally. And I notice, like, Nashville can be hard to do. Like, they're just, a lot of people just, I think, aren't as friendly. And I think it's because everyone's so new. They don't know. I also think the pandemic really changed how we socialized, too. Like, I think a lot of the socialization is occurring online.
I think that shifted the way people socialize.
Not pointing blank.
And it went from, like, this to, like, let's keep a distance, you know, less personal, this, you know. And I think that makes it different.
And you know, to go back to when we first became friends, because I realized I never really quoted anything when we were talking about that, it was because you were so friendly and so forward, and it's been so long since I met a friend who wanted to get to know me as much as I wanted to get to know them. Because it feels so like, I don't know, sometimes people are just caught up in their own shit, like whether music stuff or whatever, like they forget to have that interpersonal relationship and like chill out, man, like just talk, you know. And I'm not saying like I haven't had those experiences, it's just like those happen few and far in between that extend outside of the set, outside of the performance. Like it's nice to have, I call it the Nashville hang. It's all about getting to know each other and like really connecting. So for me, like, it was really refreshing and it was really nice. So keep doing what you're doing. It works for me.
Good.
Like, I love it when people want to like reciprocate conversation just as much as I do, because there's not enough of that. The world needs more people like that. More musicians could model that more often, and I think that's a strong reminder for me to do that more often.
While I was listening to what you were talking about earlier about people, musicians, and skills and things like that, I was thinking possibly the first thing that an artist, musician, whatever creative, if you're in the creative industry, has to have is honest friendship creation. No, that's not the right word, but I think you know what I mean. I don't want to use networking, because networking is not what I want to convey, but like going out, meeting people, having good like people skills.
I think that's what it is. I think it's just people
skills. And then secondary are the musical skills. I think I remember I was at Berkeley, and I was being pumped all these musical knowledge, and going out of it, like, yeah, I knew a lot more, but knowing that much more isn't gonna give me business. Like, I think there's a lot of business skills, people skills, relationship building skills, and professionalism skills that are probably far more up the ladder than do I know how to play a triad everywhere.
You know what I think is also missing in our, because I went to school for music as well, not as cool as Berkeley. I went to Florida Atlantic University in Florida, and I was a part of their music program, you know, for commercial music and all the things and studio engineering. But like, one of the parts that I feel like we've been missing in our education is just like even just a generic like finance course, because I feel like nobody talks about that, how challenging that is to work from a contracted work for hire environment, work for yourself, like you know, to reel back to like, how did I get here? It's just like I had to do a lot of research, like self-education, self-help courses outside of my schooling, out of all that debt that I put on myself to learn these skills. I have moments where I go, was it worth it? And then most days I go, yeah, this is pretty neat to have.
I feel what you mean. I wish, and I don't know if it's my fault, because my head was, I don't want to say fault, but I think the success depends on systems, and that's another thing that I've learned from you, because you're a big Trello, project management, you know.
That was just recent too. It wasn't always like that.
I know, but I'm saying that when I've learned that from you, at first it was very new, and I don't know.
Trello, by the way, if you want like an ambassador, like I really basically live and breathe that shit, so just let me know.
Give us a year for free.
Please, it's really expensive, man.
Anyway, but that thing helped me so much, because I can visualize all the things that I have to do, and I'm not living like, what do I need to do? You know, I'm not like making crap up.
I know.
But it's also, again, easier if you're the only person. Like, I don't want to say it's easier, harder, because you're only dealing with yourself and what you want, what you need. So in that realm, you don't have to kind of fight if other people have different thoughts, opinions. This is the system I'm going to use, and does this work?
Yeah.
It works. If it doesn't work, let's find a different system. So what I'm learning, or what I'm doing now is what we had a whole conversation on the phone, is building up these systems that will help you become more successful. And if something doesn't work, you find you
can save templates too.
Yeah.
And like even with a previous like, you know, company I worked for, we had templates and things that were just already set up because we tested and tried different things. I call it split testing. So like it's basically trying different things before something actually works the way you want.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like kind of like this marketing term, you know. But yeah, like from all the fires that we learned from those experiences, templates were created, and it imprints you. Like, it teaches you like what to expect, what's next. And yeah, obviously like shit's gonna go down, and like dates are gonna change, and like, you know, I don't know, if the goal is to have something done for a video live date or a gig, yeah, I mean, we're going to start from there. We're going to work our way backwards. You know what I mean? That's like rule number one.
I love backwards thinking.
That's the only way.
Yep.
That's why, yeah, you know, that's how I start with all my musicians. I was like, this is the date, and then we're going to rehearse a week or two before. Depending on the type of show, we might rehearse twice. We might rehearse 3 times, or we might rehearse because you want more time and you feel like it. That's when I know somebody really cares. When they have the autonomy of choice to go, I feel like I need more time and I would like to do more, you know. And also like maybe the ability to have working tapes that we can share to each other and rehearse on our own and then rehearse together to save time. So I mean, like, there's so many like working parts to making like a project work efficiently, depending on the execution. But in my opinion, Danny, like, it's all the same shit. So like my brain just goes, it's the same. It's still a deadline. It's still, you have to get all the people together. Everyone needs to agree, and then make sure that Danny or somebody else is not being asked for more work. outside of what we agreed to. And I think that's the number one lesson I could share to your listeners is, you know, being clear of what's expected of you, what's expected as a band leader, for every single gig or engagement that you do. So you get to focus on the fun shit, the people stuff.
And that boils down to communication being a very, very permanent skill.
Yeah.
And also having contracts, and we did a bunch of contracts when we engaged in music.
We
and
had
video
to.
production.
I mean, because it was just so hard to keep up. Like,
Yeah.
and guess what? And I tell people all the time, it's really more so for me, so I can keep track of what's
Right,
happening. Because
right.
sometimes it's like, before you know it, like, last minute gigs come up, and, you know, the nature of Nashville is like, I've had gigs come up within like 2 days, 5 days, and like.
That's our industry, you know. We have to weigh out. I had to tell. I was having conversations with Casey about that because, you know, I work for myself, and sometimes last minute thing comes up, and I have to have the ability to go and do it because it can make a big difference monetary wise.
I know.
It's because I don't have that. That's a thing, you know. As entrepreneurs, you don't have a steady income. So you have to constantly work on the business and work for the business. And if something comes up, you have to, is this enough to justify me being away from family, or is it not? Because if it's a lot of work and I'm only getting $100, but I have to go to do these many places, that might not worth it. But if it's like $500, only 2 hours, then I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean?
It depends
like the
on
boundaries.
I mean, it's like your availability. Like, I think the mentality of taking everything with a case-by-case basis is definitely true. And also, there's nothing wrong with setting rates. Like, I've been split testing, like, offering higher rates depending on certain events to see what I can get. And, like, the thing about split testing with real people is that sometimes it doesn't work. And that's the part of business that I'm learning is, like, how do I expand and how do I make this offer or this idea more attractive to get more clientele? So that's, like, the space that I'm in.
Yeah.
As a musician. Like, original music aside, when it comes to that industry, like, entertainment industry, that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, I understand. Marketing is a lot of it, too. I'm looking a lot of that also with my wedding business. Like, how do I make my website and my content look appealing to the market that I want to get into, which is more expensive weddings. Who should see those
And you know,
things.
like, I was even thinking about, like, doing a workshop, like, project management for artists. Like, just a little quick, like, Udemy or, like, a live workshop of what's needed. Because I've noticed even the artists that I've had the pleasure of helping with their campaigns, they just are so relieved and so happy to know they can see what's happening in real time, whether it's stuff that they have to do or it's something that I'm doing on their behalf. Like, just seeing everything grow in real time, like you say, the visual. I think we'd have better. I just think, like, we're in a world where, like, independent artists are here to stay, right? Like, whether it's, like, visual content online, whatever, like, I think having a form of, like, organization, project management for each release, each strategy, and not having to rely on a management group to do that for you is going to, like, allow people like me and other people to, like, create the industry ourselves. There's only, like, 3 conglomerates that run the music industry. There's very few now. You know what I mean? I won't name drop them in this video, but, like, and then they all have subdivisions of record labels. And, like, even just the concept of a lot of us getting a record label is so, like, it's almost, like, impossible. You almost don't even need it anymore. So I think project management really helps with setting up your strategy. Obviously, that's just, like, the first step. You have to actually learn about your competitors, learn about what it looks like here in Nashville or who you're marketing to. But, like, I think the first step is just staying organized and accountable with your projects. Agree. You know, albums, whatever. And people spend their whole lives figuring it out. And I feel like I just figured it out.
What do you think it takes? What are the steps? I didn't want to say right steps, but what are the steps to be on the path?
I think.
Path.
Well, I think just number one, like really being really easy on yourself. You know, instead of trying to stay extremely relevant with what your peers are doing, do what works best for you. Be as authentic as possible. These days, the internet's pretty hardcore. Like they're gonna know when you're just overcompensating.
Yeah.
You know, and you doing this show and then doing small things and like for a great example is me wanting to do 3 releases in a span of like 3 months, and I realized I don't really want to rush my process. I'm actually really excited to stretch this in a more artful, fun way. And I just noticed myself smiling and getting more excited about it versus being miserable and not having enough time. So for me, like, I figured out, like, a release strategy 6 to 8 weeks, or sometimes longer, is more effective. Like, I think less is more.
I completely agree.
And I think pumping out tunes, sure, if you have the bandwidth, you have the money from your sync licensing deal, and you can pump out music faster, good for you. But, like, I don't have that. So it's funneled through me, funneled through all the gigs, my work that I do. And I think, like, a good song is a good song. A good idea is a good idea. And you just have to believe in it.
I think as long as you're believing in it, you're very passionate about it, and you keep doing it, there's no reason why it shouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's definitely like a period there where I didn't know where I was gonna land for a second, and I built my Trello.
Mm-hmm. Trello
for all my releases for the year, and I saw it, and I went, "This is totally doable. Like, I can stretch this, you know, in a very artistic and honest way." And it doesn't overwhelm the listener. It doesn't overwhelm me, number one. And it allows me space to perform. It allows me space to collaborate. I'm just not trying to do everything at once anymore. I think that's like the lesson I've learned. Do not do everything at once. Do it all with like time. And like, I think patience is definitely a hard virtue for me. Like, I always want to just get it done. And I realized like, that's just not the way anymore. Just take it day by day. And creativity comes better that way. So, although I know some people like thrive on like fire under their asses, which I do too. Like, I like that. I like having a last minute gig every once in a while to keep me going, like raise my heart rate, you know, sweat a little bit. But like, I personally like to know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I don't want to be like out at dinner trying to relax and I get a text, "Hey, can you sub this gig tomorrow?" And then I have to question whether I want to do it or not, but also I have to know that I need the money and like I have to learn all these songs in like less than 12 hours. You know, those things I'm fine with. I can do it, but like I don't love it. Like, I won't love it as much. So, no, like creatives are special people. We're flexible.
You want another cup of coffee?
Yeah. My ass hurts. Let's get up.
Okay, let's get up. Cut. Welcome back.
Woof.
Ooh, yeah, beautiful. How do you like that?
It's really good. It's smooth.
Does it taste different than the espresso?
It does, for sure. I'm not a big dairy drinker, so it's nice to have a change of pace. Yeah, I don't mind dairy in my coffee every once in a while, because sometimes like dairy does highlight certain beans and things like that.
Yeah, the sugars in it can mold with the coffee.
Yeah, so I don't mind dairy. Sometimes like I think they do like you can do con panna, which is like espresso and just
con panna. Yeah, that's espresso with the dollop of whippy cream.
You ever done a cubano?
Yes.
Because that's like my, like, growing up in Florida and near Latin, Colombian, you know, Cuban experiences. Like, it was cortaditos or Cubanos.
Mm.
And cortados, sorry.
Cortado, yeah.
Cortados were
It's a
basically
small latte.
it's basically a fucking IV. Like it's literally like I can be awake for 2 days with that shit.
So
It's
I have
crazy.
all those things here in this book. What a cortado, how you make it.
It's a whole thing.
And both these books have that. And the I don't know what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something.
No, but like, and also growing up in New Orleans, I feel like every place I've lived has a style of coffee.
Yes, Viennese. Yeah.
Thailand loves their sweet iced coffee. New Orleans loves their chicory coffee blends, which I enjoy. I love. It's a mood. Okay, when I first started drinking coffee, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And as I got older, living there, I realized I actually really enjoy this flavor profile. Like it's really nice. And there's like a historic reason why chicory was in the coffee too. I don't have the reason. I'm not a historian, but it's a cool story. You know, maybe check it out. Like everywhere I've lived, I've had like coffee has followed me with it. Like Florida is just all Latin American style coffee. Like and when someone tells you they don't drink coffee, they kind of go. It's almost like a whiplash. Like what? You don't what? They're like, you want decaf? No, you don't want decaf. You want the real thing.
Believe it or not, I had 2 people on the show who are tea drinkers.
That's good.
I do have one person come in who said, I'm going to put my big boy pants on and have some coffee.
You can do a tea latte.
That's true.
You can do a chai latte.
That's true. I've used the pressurized portafilter to make more of an espresso-ish tea.
Why don't we do a tea latte show?
Okay. But you mentioned you like Cubano. Cubano, you use that machine that I used for this, the mocha pot.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you do it is when it starts to come up, do you know how a mocha pot works?
Mm-mm.
So this thing, you see it? This.
Right, yeah.
So you put the water here.
Oh, percolator.
Yeah, percolator, yeah.
Yeah, I know how to use that
great.
for sure.
So when it starts coming up, you get that little milk, you put it in the sugar, brown sugar usually, and you mix it, create this kind of brown frothy thing.
Really?
And then when the whole thing brewed, then you slowly pour it in, mix it in, and then you can put milk or whatever you want. Now there's another way, which is the fake way, but it's an espresso kind of way.
You know.
It's so when you tamp down the coffee beans, the ground coffee and the portafilter and espresso, you put a little layer of brown sugar, turmeric sugar, or coconut sugar in it, and then you put a puck screen in it. What that will do is the pressure and the hot water kind of will caramelize the sugar and then goes through the beans, and then it will brew a sweet espresso with a small amount of. I made that for Joey when you guys were here before this.
Yeah, he loved that.
And that was like, a lot of TikTokers called it the Cubano, but that's not really the Cubano. But that's a way, and it's funnily very sweet, even though people are using small amount of it.
Yeah, Cubanos, like, when I grew up in Florida, I've grown up in a lot of places. When I grew up in Florida, like, Cubanos were always, like, very sweet. I can get them black, too. Like, they just would give me a funny look. I don't know what it is with people giving me funny looks when I say not too sweet. But, yeah, they've always used turbinado cane sugar, like, in the Cubanos. And I noticed each barista was always a little bit more heavy-handed than the other. Everyone had their different style. When you go to these Cubano shops, like, you'd get your Cuban sandwich, then you get a Cubano or a cortado, and that was the deal. And then the side of plantains. I mean, like, that was, like, the entire antithesis of what lunch looked like in college for me. Like, and then maybe have it later at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because I would have to rehearse for, like, 6 more hours, music or whatever. So it was, like, Cubanos have a very special place. Again, coffee has always been with me. For a long time, even on the road, like discovering like new places. I feel like coffee shops are like the first thing I have a curiosity about.
Yep,
and I love coffee shops that like combine their flavor profiles with their food.
Oh yeah,
that's when I know they're legit.
A unique little, how to call it, a hole in a wall.
Yeah,
I learned that word last year, hole in a wall.
Those are my favorite, my absolute favorite.
Yeah.
So yeah. Your girl loves coffee.
Well, I remember the first time I visited Casey's parents, and we went to her parents live in a small town, Mississippi, and along the way I was like, what coffee shops are there that we can check it out?
I
We went to
know.
New Orleans. I'm like, what's cool here? You know, I had to grab a pound of beans that they roasted from
Yes.
wherever I went. And then when I got home, I'm like, let's do this.
And I've been on like so many dates, like at coffee shops. Like,
Mhm.
you know, I remember going on like my first date ever at a coffee shop. I mean, like, I feel like coffee shops have just a special place, at least for me, historically. And I don't know about other people, but I mean, that's like the first place I think of that, you know, you can take your platonic date to, or like somebody you're interested on a different level. Like, coffee just always wraps it around. If I don't want coffee, I drink tea. And if I don't want tea, maybe they have alcohol. Because they change by 5 p.m. They have like happy hour. I mean, like, that's the new thing too. So I mean, like, coffee shops have evolved over the past like 10 years.
Have you been to 51st Avenue Deli?
Yes.
Oh, there's one right where I live, like 5 minutes of walk or less. They have these line of CBD drinks and Delta 9 drinks. Whew, buddy. I had one with a
Ooh,
sandwich.
mama.
That thing put me to sleep.
I bet. You're making me hungry.
Oh, they have good sandwiches. My favorite there, I remember when I lived in Boston, I would go to this place called Pavement. That was
That's a funny name.
local, I think they're local, local little coffee shop. They had multiple places in Boston and one right in front of of Berkeley. And I would always get the same thing. I would find my favorite. And for some reason, I would never really try her things because I'm my favorite, and I know I know I would. Yeah, I'm gonna feel good after that. I love it. You know, same thing when if I go to.
Now listen, I mean, like, they'll start asking you for money. You better watch yourself.
I always get the hazelnut latte.
Oh man, that's so good.
The hazelnut is my favorite, and it's
So
funny because you know, when I crave it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go in later today. I'm gonna drink that. It's kind of shaping the way I'm feeling, and when they don't have it, I'm like, oh my god,
It's upsetting.
It's upsetting, and they didn't have it for like 6 months, and they're like, yeah, we're kind of changing the recipe. Why? It was good.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
But sometimes they have secret menu.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to be all up in that. And then when I used to work at Chamber like, the secret menu stuff was always fun. Like, it's crazy. Like, okay, to segue, like, it's crazy how kids start drinking coffee so young. Like, I didn't start drinking coffee till I was probably, like, 12. Like, coffee, like, Thai tea's different. Okay, Thai tea's like a different profile.
I love Thai tea.
Same, I
man.
know.
Oh.
But like coffee, I didn't really start drinking until I was like 11ish, 12. I don't know, it just never was something I cared more about tea than coffee. And then once I got turned to the dark side, no pun intended, like, that was it. My love for coffee expanded from there. But I remember working at the chain and like seeing this like 8-year-old order this like large like frappe type drink.
Ooh.
And you know, those things have like extracted coffee in it, like, that they blend with. And I was like, I remember turning to my coworker at the time going, if I drank that right now, I would be going for like a mile run. Like, that is so strong. So like I'm not a fan of like frappe drinks. Hate to bring the negative parts of coffee, but the frappe drinks that are a little bit too much for my taste. I'm a big fan of just a nice iced beverage. I don't need the extreme toppings and the extreme syrups. I actually enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoy this with a dollop of cream, and that's it.
Because at that point, you're probably just gonna taste the syrups.
Sugar.
Not really. It's gonna be a sugar overload rather than, you know, the flavor of the bean and all these stuff.
Right.
Kind of chemistry going together, but it's gonna be salted caramel.
I know,
sugar.
for sure. It was just crazy, like, just seeing these children basically come in and drink these, like, caffeinated, like, beverages. And, of course, there'd be some good parenting occurring, saying, like, okay, don't put coffee in this. Just just basically a milkshake. I was like, I got you.
Oh yeah.
And I remember telling those parents, like, good choice. It's a good decision for you. Like,
I don't even remember when the first time was that
No?
I drank coffee. Let me think.
was
I know I had some in Hungary when I was in, I guess high schoolish, but the experience wasn't the same as.
what was your first coffee ever? Do you remember?
I think it was a percolator.
Same.
We always had percolators, similar looking like what I
Yeah.
have, and I remember, we would just put that thing, sucker in, let that boil, and here you go with some milk, and there you go.
That's it. That's all I get.
And I think when I lived alone in Boston, and I was right in front of a. By the way, I'm not choking. We're not choking. We're just not saying the name. I spent so much money there, and Dunkin'. I love Dunkin'.
No.
I like Dunkin'. I always had the Dunkin's breakfast with one of those muffins, and then large coffee, but it was super hot. I always had to throw a little bit out and then put milk and
I
sugar.
felt like sometimes those employees are so angry. You know what I mean? Like, they made the coffee with very strong feelings.
Oh yeah, and almost burned, like too hot brewing.
Yeah. No, for
And-
sure. Temperature is
yeah.
everything.
And then, funnily, what really got me into to learn coffee making is I loved going into Goodwill and finding cool stuff, especially near where my dad lives. 'Cause
Yeah.
where he lives, there's a bunch of military people, and they just throw a bunch of expensive shit out. And I went to this Goodwill, and they had this Starbucks coffee machine with a pod machine that somebody just threw out, and it was $5. I looked up, it was worth $200. I'm like, shit, heck yeah, let's put it in. So I put it in. First, it didn't work. Okay, I looked up some videos. I was able to fix it, and I got pots, and then everybody was drinking some pod espresso. We loved it. I'm like, okay, I found 2 more, so I had 3 of that. And I found another espresso, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to learn something else. So I really wanted to learn how to make espresso. So I got a $80 DeLonghi, but it wasn't still it was pressurized, so you can't really do much of that dialing in.
Yeah.
And then a year and a half later, for my birthday, I wanted that Breville. And every time I make a purchase, it's like I'm learning about this for 3 months. Like, I'm not making an uneducated I want to make sure it's good. And then I love it. Like, every day I make at least 4 espressos. Not for myself, but 2 for myself, 2 for Casey.
Right?
And then if
Gas
we have
squad
gas, so we're heavily using it. I always try to look at the stuff that I buy. Is it gonna make me money? Is it gonna make my life easier? Is it gonna be something that can help me save money? So for this, it definitely, I'm not going to this. I haven't been to a coffee shop in I don't know, months, unless if it's something that is a unique place that has cool, that's just what it is. But that's how I'm looking at it. If I have an instrument that I haven't used, or something that isn't making me money, then I might sell it because I try to convert
I
it.
feel like if you had your own coffee line, I feel like everything would be a dad joke.
Oh,
You'd have a dad joke on each coffee bag, and then it would be video or audio themed for each one. That's what I think. Or have Hungarian names because that's where you're from. It would just be super funny.
I'd love that because I was talking to other folks in the show, and they asked if I would be a barista. I'm like, I guess I am because I am making all this stuff.
A featured roaster.
I would, if I were to work for somewhere, I would not work for. I would love to work at maybe a mom and pop that really care about this stuff where I can feel somewhat fulfilled. But I think down the line I'd love to have my own space where I can host artists and really pay them well and pay people and appreciate. It sounds funny, but being an artist and things like that, I think you have to I want to be more. I want to be fair. You know, I want to create a space that I can give a fair wage to people and have a cool spot. But that's down the line.
I mean,
like, I'm not
even
here
just a
to-
nice living room is more than enough. I mean, you don't have to think too large unless you really, really want to. But I mean, I think Nashville lives on that like thing of just keeping it down home and chill. Like, I mean, hello, like my rehearsal studio's in my home. You know what I mean? So it's just like keep it down home and simple. And if it grows, it grows. Back to the theory of take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Enjoy the space that you have. Because you never know when you won't have it anymore.
That is true, yeah.
And then fit everybody in that small ass space and hope it works out.
What I like to think is it's good to have these ideas, but not not sit on them too long, or not overthink it, or not what's the word? Hyperfixate on it. I do know a goal, but take it one day at a time and doing the right steps or the right motions.
Yeah, I mean, see how it goes. Like, see how the show does and expand from there based on what it looks like. I mean, that's give the people what they want or don't want. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't really care what you want. He's gonna do it anyways.
I would say I'm a little scientist in a way that each episode is a way for me to learn more about the person and learn more about my process and get ideas on what else I can do. Because what I want to do is have a set where I have these things next to me and we don't have to go anywhere and I can make it. You know, I don't want to give out secrets, but
for sure.
You know, but something like that. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
That's right. That's all you can do.
Yeah, Mandy, I think we're gonna have to have multiple episodes because there's a lot of things that we can't talk about. But where can people find you? What is something new? If there's something you can say, because I know this episode isn't going to be live per se, but if you want to point people to a direction or something, tell them what you're excited about, now's your time.
Well, if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Mandy Moon Music. That's for all platforms. My artist name is Mandy Moon. Also because of the climate of not sure when this is going to be posted. Just know I have lots of music being released by spring, summer of this year, and a music video. So if you do follow me, you'll get the neatest scoop. And if Danny decides to release this earlier, then I can give you a B-side version of... I can give you something because, in case it changes. Mm-hmm. My first single of the year is coming out April 5th. It's called Same Page. And that's going to be available on all platforms, everywhere, you name it, Tidal, TikTok, Amazon Music, Spotify, all the things. And super proud of this. I collaborated on this with Antoine Johnson and Leah Jones and just so many people involved in that song. So I'm really, really excited to kick off 2024 with a single that I have been holding on to for like a year now. And yeah, just really, really excited for more. I could go on forever.
I know.
Stop there.
I hear your barking fans there.
Woof.
They're like, woof, 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 woof,
woof. Woof, cheers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me cut us down. Thank you so much for watching. And that was Dan Nagy and Mandy Moon with Caffeinated Creatives, baby.
We can say it together if you want.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Caffeinated Creatives.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Brought to you by Trello.
Just
kidding.
And Coffee Company, we're not mentioning. Let's look over there for a sec. Let me switch to photo. Come on, baby. Cable disconnect. Okay, let's take a picture with my phone.